We are the champions, my friends. We kept on fighting until the end. Skins won this game against the Giants 29-27. Sean is MIA right now. I hope he's at a bar somewhere out there in Colorado trying to get lucky. But Robbie and Steve and I are here, and let's do this thing. Skins get a big, much-needed win. Let's go. The Hogs.
Welcome to the Hogsty with your crew, Alex Zeese, Steve Thomas, and Robbie Duncan.
And welcome back, Steve. Steve, what are you doing to celebrate the Redskins' first win this year?
I'm just admiring your use of lyrics from a British rock band to celebrate the Redskins' victory over the Giants. Very happy, very excited. We did jinx, do a reverse jinx because all three of us picked the Redskins to lose, and yet they surprised us all and pulled out a victory. Very happy.
Always pull out. Always pull out. That's what I always say. Robbie. Robbie.
Yes.
Let's ignore that.
What are you doing to? What are you gonna do to celebrate this big win?
I need to drink some hot tea and honey to soothe my voice. I kind of yelled my guts out at the end after that Sue Cravens pick.
Oh yeah, I was doing the whole redneck rebel yell kind of shout at one point.
I just kept yelling.
But considering where you live, that may not be a smart thing to do out loud, Alex.
Yeah, they all know I'm cool. So, and I'm not the only one shouting out like a crazy person in my neighborhood. Thank goodness.
I just meant the rebel yell might not be a good idea, considering you live in Southeast DC.
But they all know I'm a hippie. Well, let's get into this thing. Big win for us. Let's start with what the offense did that really impressed you. What did the offense do right this time around that we didn't see in previous games, Robbie?
They made adjustments. They made adjustments. They right off the bat, instead of Norman following Odell Beckham all around, he followed him around a little bit, but it was mostly. The biggest adjustment they made was they brought Greg Toller out, who's a really solid man coverage guy, and had him on outside, and Breeland moved into the nickel.
Right.
And things looked good at the beginning until Quentin Dunbar had that blunder on special teams, which technically was illegal because he got pushed into it, but still.
Yeah, they kind of missed that.
When you hear the return man yelling Peter, 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 that means run away. Just run to the sideline, get away from the football. Don't even, make it close.
He shouldn't have been anywhere near it.
No, he shouldn't.
No. We'll get into more of what Dunbar did though later. I mean, because he kind of
what went. Yeah, well, he had some big plays too. Obviously, for me, what went right was number one, we saw the return of good Kirk. Win or lose, it was obvious that. The good Kirk returned. The ball was coming off his hand really well. He was seeing the field a lot better. He was scanning the field. His mechanics were better. He hit the long ball. That's number one. Number two, you got to give kudos to Jay Gruden for calling a much better game. He started out with the run. He stuck with the run. Normally, the normal Jay Gruden, about halfway through the third quarter, it would have been 100% pass.
Right.
Yeah.
And he stuck with it, and so you got to give it to Jay Gruden.
He really did on that last play. I think they said at one point there were 8 plays, 7 were runs on that last drive, just grinding it out. And
he wouldn't have done that before.
No, I think that's Gruden. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see if it's him learning a little or not. We have to kind of go down the road a little bit to see if he does this more than once.
Well, let's talk numbers.
Yeah,
on that. Sure. First of all, the run pass balance is 36 pass, 30 run, which for Jay is a miracle.
That's
we're never going to get
50 as we get.
Yeah, we're never going to get to the point where we're a running team, but that certainly is anybody's idea of balance, I think. Kirk Cousins was 21 for 35, 296 yards, 2 touchdowns, 106.4 rating, which is, that just goes to show how much interceptions matter. Our backup quarterback, Tress Way, was 1 for 1 for 31 yards. We'll get into that. Yeah. Matt Jones, 17 carries, 65 yards, 3.8 yards average, which wasn't what you'd call, quote, good. but he did his job when it mattered down the stretch. Chris Thompson, 6 carries, 23 yards. Deshaun Jackson was our leading receiver, 5 catches, 96 yards, 19.2 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. Pierre Garçon, 5 catches, 59 yards. Jordan Reed had 4 catches. Jamison Crowder had 4 catches. That is the offense for today.
And
So
we saw some missteps throughout that whole process. Let's be honest.
Oh, of course.
It was not a perfect game by any
Any
standard.
standard. We saw a lot of injuries that kind of led to some changes to the O line and changes to who was out there at various times in the game. But they did enough to just pull this out, right? I mean, all in all.
Well, again, I think Kirk Cousins is the X factor.
Sure.
He really was, because when he's and I counted 5 bad ball passes, but it was nothing like last week where every pass looked like a wounded duck. He was just terrible. He was he hit the deep ball to Deshaun Jackson was a great ball. The touchdown to Crowder was a great ball, and he was scanning the field a lot better. His yardage and percentage and completion percentage isn't that much different, but he just looked like a totally different guy, I thought. And from an offensive standpoint, that's the X factor.
No, and a big thing too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, and it wasn't last week he had a couple interceptions that were dropped. Right. Also, and he really didn't have any balls that should have been interception type balls today. Truly the X factor, I thought.
We've said. I mean, he's the reason behind the offense. He's what makes the offense go or not go. When he's on, and there were times in this game where he looked like, late last season's Kirk Cousins. He was slinging it. He looked confident. He was, really rifling that ball into some tight coverage and some really nice throws. I mean, it looks like he's finally starting to kind of come into form. It's a shame that it took so long, but it definitely was night and day difference between this game and the first 2 games.
Yeah, the thing is, maybe this is Kirk Cousins is the thing. Maybe he's just going to be an inconsistent guy. He just might be one of these guys that's going to look really bad and really good. Really bad one week, really bad the next. Who knows if he's ever going to put it together. But for these purposes today, he did well. Of course, we gotta. I mean, we can't. We can't ignore the fact that we had more red zone problems. Bad red zone problems again today. It was 3 field goals in the first trips to the red zone and the early going 3 field goals. The touchdown to Deshaun Jackson was a long pass. We never got to the red zone there.
Now you say that, but at the same time, we're getting in the red zone, which means we're getting chances to at least put up some points. Which I know that's not ideal, but. No. It's far better than a offense that constantly goes 3 and out or doesn't do anything, obviously. I mean, we're moving the ball, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to frickin' execute in the red zone. That's what's holding us back right now. We moved all over them for most of the game.
We could be
just
a 40
couldn't put it in.
game team there, but we weren't.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's it was the Achilles heel. We get to about the 30-yard line and the offense just stops.
Right.
And it happened again today. I mean, the last drive of the game was probably our best drive. When they, with the 8 minute, they burned 6.5 minutes off the clock.
Something like that. Yeah. Running the ball.
Yeah, game winning field goal. We just haven't gotten to the point where, they can drive down. And keep driving inside the 20, get the touchdown from the 5-yard line. That just hasn't happened this year. And so I think that's the next step for the offense. Assuming this week wasn't a fluke, because it was a good defense in the Giants. Assuming this is not a fluke, I think that's the next step in the progression of the offense is to see them close the deal in the red zone and get touchdowns. Because this, if we had scored 2 touchdowns instead of, 2 touchdowns and a field goal instead of 3 field goals in the first half, this wouldn't have been a game. We'd have been way up and played a totally different game in the second half.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone would disagree that we need to put up more points overall. But, well, let's talk about some of the other things that we saw go right on offense. We won. Let's be happy about this. Rob Kelly got his first touches of the season.
And
I know.
he didn't have anything to work with when he came in, unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
No,
no.
he was 4 for 7, 4 for 7 yards, 1.8 yards per carry, but he didn't have any space whatsoever. I
No.
didn't think.
No, he didn't. But we saw a decent day overall running the ball. One thing
For
that
us.
yeah, for us. One thing that I keep seeing that drives me nuts is we keep on doing this shotgun delayed handoff run, and it just doesn't work. We
It's a
don't
draw.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a draw play.
It's I always called that an inside draw. Yeah, it did work, for one play. I mean, they
Right.
did catch.
Okay, fair enough.
They
It
did
did
catch the
work
Giants on the
once,
Chris Towder.
but the other
Um,
5 times we ran it, not so much.
Well, but when you fail, I mean, I saw that you tweeted out. I disagreed with your tweet, Alex, that said, our only success is running in the A gap. I think we're terrible at it for the most part. But when you just aren't achieving success, doing that, you have to try stuff like, delayed handoffs and, mix it up a little bit. And it worked in that, we started gaining positive yardage at some point. We finished as a team, 30 carries, 90 yards for 3 yards per carry, which,
Very
for any other team
pedestrian.
for any other team that's represents awful. For
Right.
us, that's progress,
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it was not so much the numbers, but if you look at the game, what was important was in the Redskins' final drive, they were able to control the clock because we finally started getting positive yardage in the run game.
And I think that's a great point. That's a huge thing that we did in the final drive that probably won us the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I was talking with some people. I don't remember if this was on Facebook or Twitter, but that fourth quarter was kind of like watching heavyweight boxers, where it's really just who wants to stay upright the longest. Like, we're running, we're getting a couple yards here and there. The Giants were doing the same thing to us. But, the defense, you could tell both defenses were kind of just on the ropes trying to keep it together. And, it was that kind of game. It was that kind of fourth quarter, won it out.
It was that game made me age a couple years, I think. I don't know. I mean, being a Redskins fan has done that to me, I think. But
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it was especially that last drive with Eli.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of driving. They got that offensive pass interference on Odell, which bailed us out too, and then Sua got the pick. It was such a roller coaster.
Really.
Well, yeah, and it can't go unsaid that the Giants are uncharacteristically terrible in penalties. They had, I think, 10 penalties at least. We weren't good on penalties. We had 8 that I counted, but the Giants had some just soul crushing penalties. If I was a Giants fan, I'd be very upset about the lack of discipline. And I think it's time, Robbie. We had a ton of injuries on the O-line. We had massive changes. We saw, the most expensive left guard in the league, in Trent Williams. So let's talk about O-line today.
Yeah.
I mean,
point.
I loved Ty and Secchi and Trent on the same side. I didn't expect that Trent would be the one that would bump down to guard, but I don't know. I guess they thought he was more athletic enough and good enough to make the quick adjustment like that instead of asking Ty to come in off the bench to play left guard. My guess is, assuming that Sean Laval and Corey Lichtensteiger are still out next week, that it's going to be Trenton, not Lichtensteiger, Insecki on the left side again. But this time it'll be Insecki at left guard because he'll have a whole week to practice it. I mean,
Right.
Trent's not going to stay at left guard. That's not going to happen.
What about Quanjo? Quanjo could come in at left guard and keep Trent at left tackle.
He's not coming in at left guard over Insecki. He's not a better lineman than Insecki. Insecki's better than him, and that's just the way it works. Best 5 will play, and assuming that those two still are still out, then Quanjo will be active but not the starter.
What did you see from Long? Long came in, and I thought he played pretty well for the most part.
I thought he did really well. I mean, that little snap infraction was very frustrating because the false starts and snap, whatever you want to call them, snafus are just really just so undisciplined and just very frustrating because it just affects the drive really badly. I mean, you go from first and 10 or say second and 5, back down to second and 10 because you twitched a little bit in your stance. It's stuff you have to clean up because it really affects things. But luckily, we were able to overcome it this week.
Now, didn't Moses get 2 false starts all by himself? I know he got at least one.
Moses had a bad day today. He went back
Was he just scared of the Giants' ends or what?
No, it wasn't the ends. It was one end. It was Jason Pierre-Paul. It was one guy. And no, I don't think he was scared. I think he just got beat. He, went back to his waist bending on the sack, the second sack that he gave up. He was just leaning on him and just try to ride him out, and it didn't work. You have to actually punch him and run with him. You can't just lean on him and hope the quarterback gets rid of the ball. You got something, Steve?
I think, yeah. Well, if you go back to Trent at guard, I mean, what I read here is that Trent had never played guard at any level ever. It seems to me, from the uneducated observer's standpoint, that if you have an emergency at guard, we know that Ty Nsekhe is a competent left tackle.
Right.
But I think at that point you got to trust the All-Pro. If you have to move somebody out of position, let's move our All-Pro, all-world, lineman and ask him to do it. And so I think that was a good coaching decision.
Yeah, it was a good decision by Callahan. I mean, he let Nsekhe do what he's comfortable with. That it's not a huge change for him to make. Since he's been practicing at left and right tackle all season so far. But now I think it's definitely going to change. He'll have to work at playing left guard this week, assuming that those other 2 guys are out.
Yeah, and remember that time when we interviewed Ty last season, he talked about how he always considered himself a left tackle, and that right tackle was a big change for him, and he was most comfortable at left tackle. And so when you move somebody around, I think that's what you do. I'll really be interested to see, how it ends up. I mean, I trust your judgment when when we say we're going to see, Williams and then Nsekhe. I think that'll be a very interesting battle to watch.
I mean, that's a huge left side too. I mean, the strength and girth on that left side is awesome, and it showed. I mean, the Giants have a stout run defense. They've shown it the past 2 weeks now, and we were moving guys on that left side when they came in. We were able to kind of run the clock out some on that second to last drive.
My question about this is really more for Steve, I guess. Have they said what Laval's injury was yet?
No, I haven't seen anything on the injuries.
Okay.
Let's just cover injuries now.
Sure.
Corey Lichtensteiger was gouged in the eye, and then he went out again later, and we don't have any information as to what that second injury was. It looked like he was gouged in the eye
again, too, which would speak to what the Giants kind of do, philosophically speaking.
Yeah. Sean Laval, like we said, had an ankle injury. No word as to the seriousness. Deshaun Jackson had a knee and ankle problem, but he came back in the game and got another reception. So presumably he's a little beat up, but it'll be okay. Bashad Breeland had a lower leg injury. He told the media after the game that X-rays showed nothing broken, which is a good sign.
He is in a boot and crutches, though. There's tweets coming out about that.
MRI Monday. By far the most serious injury is to D'Angelo Hall. The word that we have read is that this is from Josina Anderson, she's in the NFL Network, I think, right? Josina.
Yeah.
Regardless, he guessed D'Angelo told her he has a possible torn ACL. So we'll have to see for the MRI for that. He was walking on it in the locker room, apparently, for whatever that's worth.
Sean Laval was also in a boot, I saw.
Okay.
Man.
It looks like of all of these, D Hall is probably the most serious, and Laval we don't know about. So I'd say if we were worried about 2 people, it'd be D Hall definitely, then Laval second. Breeland, it looks like he will probably be okay, in the long term. D-Jack's probably okay. Lichty, we don't know, but I'm guessing Lichtensteiger's probably okay. So D-Hall and Laval are the 2 ones we need.
I mean, D-Hall worries me because at his age, an ACL is probably, end of the line for him.
Yeah, if it's a torn ACL, he's done. That's way too much for him to come back from.
Yeah, I mean, which would be awful because he's just been such a great leader for us the last 4 or 5 years. And then, we really don't have anyone who can fill in that spot that he's filling in at free safety.
No. In terms of points, Dustin Hopkins was 5 for 5 on field goals, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Way to go,
yeah.
Hop. Duster.
Yeah. So that's offense. Do we want to talk defense a little bit?
Yeah, let's go. Let's move on to defense. We're about at that time.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. Steve doesn't like it, but my two most popular tweets during the game
I don't
were
like it.
both about making fun of Joe Barry, and one was about possibly someone should punch him in the throat or something. But
I don't
that's
like
about
it. I disavow that tweet.
Steve disavows it. I stand by my belief that Joe Barry needs to be punched in the throat to get him motivated. Robbie, what say you? What did you see on defense?
Not good. I mean, yes, the win overshadows a really bad performance overall. I mean, we made some plays that changed things, but take those away, and it still was a bad game. We couldn't stop the run very well. They were running right up the middle on us. Tackling was not very good. We were getting killed in the nickel, which I said was the biggest X factor. I thought Sterling Shepard was going to be due for an even bigger game, but luckily we only kept him to one touchdown. But it was not good, and people finally stepped up near the end of the game to put the game away. Dunbar's interception was the turning point of the game. If that didn't happen, it was a different game. We probably would have lost.
Yeah.
If I were a Giants fan, I would really be of the belief that the Giants killed themselves on offense, in particular with the penalties. They had some drive-turning penalties in that game, that they kind of did to themselves. Numbers for the Giants: Eli Manning, 25 of 38, 350 yards passing, 9.2 yards average, one touchdown. The two big interceptions obviously were tough.
Almost three. Let's not forget that there was one that should have probably been called an interception that wasn't.
Yeah, Josh Norman dropped one. That probably should have been an interception.
Yeah.
We once again made a backup running back look like a good running back, Shane Vereen, who they should have used more. 11 carries, 67 yards, 6.1 yards average. And then the third string back, Orleans Darkwa, 10 carries, 53 yards. So on the game, the Giants put up 21 carries, 120 yards rushing. The big Josh Norman, Odell Beckham Jr. battle, I think we ought to address that. Beckham was 7 receptions, 121 yards, no touchdowns, long of 26, 11 targets. I will say
and
that I think the numbers.
Field goal net. Don't forget that.
Yeah. I will say that I think the numbers do not Odell Beckham's raw numbers do not reflect the quality performance that Josh Norman, for the most part, did against him. The most of the game, Norman started flip-flopping. They stayed in zone most of the time. Most of the time, but Norman did flip-flop left or right side to follow Beckham around quite a bit. Not all the time, but quite a bit. And a lot of that yardage that Beckham got was when Norman was not on him. There was really only one, maybe two receptions that were difference makers in that battle. So I think that I'd probably, if you had to pick a winner, I'd probably pick Josh Norman to be the winner, just because Odell is Odell, but he didn't do damage, and the damage he did do wasn't against Norman. So I think Norman did. I think Norman did well.
Well, I would say on that rivalry, who looked like they were rattled at the end of the game?
Clearly Odell Beckham.
Right. One guy was punching a field goal net and crying on the sideline, and the other guy
getting hit back by the field goal thing.
Right.
He tried to fight a field goal net and he lost.
Well, they're very springy. People don't realize that about field goal nets. They have a very tense strength with the webbing and all that, so they bounce back if you hit them really hard. And if you don't know that, you're gonna do something stupid. But Norman just looked fired up at the end of the game, and the other guy was crying. So.
Yeah, there was a good video of Norman walking into the locker room after the game that showed how fired up he was.
Fist pumping.
If y'all haven't seen that,
what a freaking crybaby!
Oh,
I'm talking about Odell Beckham.
Right.
That is. Yeah, I mean, really, the tantrum he pitched before that, he did something at the little medical cabinet thing, banging his head on something or whatever.
Yeah.
And then after he hit the field goal practice net, that hit him back, he still was like kicking around, stomping his feet, like a 3-year-old kid trying to get candy at a store that his parents won't buy for him.
He's a hothead, but in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm surprised he didn't start holding his breath, because that's usually their last resort if they don't get what they want.
And this isn't to generalize everybody, but never trust a man over 18 who still bleaches his hair.
He's all style and all about himself. And, he wanted to have a big game. I mean, yes, the win is important too, but he most of all, I mean, even before the game was out of hand and they were losing, he was pitching a fit because he wasn't getting any stats. That first incident he did was because of that. I mean, I can't stand him, to be honest.
He did make a great one-handed catch on the, I forget what pattern he was running, but he did make a good catch. So I got to give him that.
Speaking of great one-handed catches, let's talk about one guy who looked like he could have been the, figurehead for why we lost the game.
Yeah.
And then became the reason why we won, and that is Quinton Dunbar, who had a great one-handed interception at the goal line. Not to mention the great one-handed, I think, catch.
It wasn't a one-handed catch.
It wasn't one-handed.
Oh, it was a diving catch.
Folks,
it was a jump ball, though.
Okay.
Talking about the pass from punter Tress Way. And I will say that, we criticized Jay Gruden last week for being the most unimaginative, conservative football coach in the history of football.
Right.
And what happened? So he heard us. Clearly he was listening because he called a fake punt.
Hey, Jay, if you're listening, come on.
I know you are.
Give us a call. Give us a call. I'll kiss your ass for 5 hours on a podcast if you like.
I was impressed with Tress's arm. He's a punter, but that was a pretty good ball for being a punter.
That was a really good throw and a good catch. Let's not discount what Dunbar did. He really fought for that thing.
Yeah. We're talking about Giants offense here, though. I think Robbie was right in pointing out that last week that the X factor was Sterling Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had 5 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown.
Right.
Seemed like every time we turned around, he was making a play. I guess, and part of it is that he was the Giants' number 3 receiver, so he's going to have a little bit more, especially since we were short a DB or two in that game.
We were short a DB, and we kept on putting Deshaun Phillips on him, which doesn't help.
Yeah, that guy needs to be not playing on the field.
Not even on the team. I would be okay with.
Well, I mean, I had him not making the 53-man roster because of that. I mean, everybody was like, well, no, he's their starting nickel right now, so he's making the team. But I mean, the entire camp, I saw nothing from him. Nothing.
I don't know why Dunbar isn't our starting nickel, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean,
or Toller before Breeland's injury. Toller was probably the most logical. He's a veteran. He was a starting number 2 for years. I mean,
and he was playing solid all preseason and training camp, locking down guys in one-on-ones, getting interceptions. I mean, he wasn't outperforming guys like him, Dunbar, Kendall Fuller, who was a 3rd-round draft pick who was going to make the team anyway. I saw no need for him to be on the roster in the beginning. So I don't know. Something needs to change with him.
I think if you ask Joe Barry about why Phillips was playing over Dunbar in the nickel, I think he would probably say that the nickel, covering in the slot is more complicated, and we don't want to confuse the rookie. We want to be able to have him on the outside so we can use the sideline. But at some point, you got to let the best players play.
Right.
And I think it's pretty clear to everybody that Phillips isn't one of those best players. I'm glad to see that Toller came in and replaced. Toller had a good game. Replaced Breeland on the outside. Played pretty well. I mean, the whole secondary. I realize Eli put up 350 yards, but for the most part, the secondary did pretty well, and they didn't get really burnt and didn't look as bad as it could be.
Well, let's also we need to say the nature of the NFL now is everybody puts up 300 yards passing. It's so hard to stop a passing game these days because of the rules that you're just going to give up yards, but you have to be able to stop people in key situations, and we did that today, and that's a big thing. Yeah,
I mean, no doubt. You have to criticize our run defense,
sure.
Like we said. Shane Vereen is a backup. He looked great for the most part, on us. No change, in our run defense. It's looked bad before. It looks bad now. It's probably going to look bad in the future. I just don't know what to say about that. I think the fact that Cullen Jenkins was in there didn't seem to make a huge difference in terms of results. I didn't notice him do a whole heck of a lot in terms of impact. Did you, Robbie?
No, I mean, who were you talking about again? I was
Cullen
kind of zoning
Jenkins.
out.
Cullen Jenkins, because we saw him. It's really the first time.
Yeah, he got us the 12 man on the field penalty. He didn't get off the field in time.
There you go.
I didn't see much else other than that, and the fact that we were just getting split up the middle in the running game was just not a good sign either.
Tackles. Our leading tacklers today, David Bruton, Jr., 9 total tackles, 8 solo. Josh Norman had 6 tackles, 5 solo, plus 2 pass defenses. Mason Foster, D'Angelo Hall, Preston Smith all had 5 tackles. We had we had 2 sacks.
Right.
Chris Baker just had the brutal hit on Eli, and then Trent Murphy got one. We didn't get a ton of pressure on Eli, to be honest, but he didn't get that dirty. But we did have the 2 sacks. So,
Trent Murphy's really kind of stepping up his play these past 2 weeks. 2 last week, 1 this week. 2 of those sacks in these 2 weeks has been strip sacks. I mean, he's really stepping up and kind of becoming a little bit of a playmaker for us, at least at the moment. I mean, we need pressure, and he was getting it. I mean, Preston Smith and Ryan Kerrigan weren't getting pressure. He's been getting more pressure than they have so far.
Now, do you think this has anything to do with the fact that we have him playing more of a defensive end type role where he's just going after the quarterback?
I mean, it certainly helps. Asking a guy not as athletic as Trent Murphy to, drop back into coverage and do, things that just don't suit his abilities. If you just let him do what he's best at, then I think he's a lot better than what he's shown to be, and that's showing now.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a good year. I honestly, I think he's had a better year than Ryan Kerrigan in terms of impact
so far. Yeah, I mean, I think we're only 3 games in, so we have to hedge our bets.
Yeah, it's early. I think Murphy was the one who got the roughing the passer on Eli that I thought was a pretty ticky-tacky call.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can do. I really don't know what you can do with these quarterbacks. I think the NFL's gone nutty over the quarterbacks. It's literally like if the ball has left the hand for even a split second, if you touch the quarterback, it's going to be a roughing the quarterback penalty. It makes the game not fun when you see those kind of penalties. To me,
I agree with you on that. I think there were 3 probably penalties I would say were questionable, and all 3 went against us, which annoys me, but doesn't surprise me. But we pulled it out in the end, so I'm not going to complain too much, obviously. But there was that one. We had an interception that was challenged, but they said it's the ruling on the field. I think that was Bruton who made that interception.
Yeah. It was Bruton that made you're talking about on the fade pattern in the end zone.
Yeah. Where it looked like he was down in the corner, but he wasn't.
That was the interception. They did us dirty on that.
Right, and then who was the Fox NFL former ref analyst said Dunbar's fumble on the punt return shouldn't have been called a fumble because he was pushed into it from the back.
But it's not reviewable, so
Yeah.
Oh well.
I don't know why. Just as a big picture point, I don't know why everything isn't reviewable. I think every single call should be reviewable. And you're talking about Mike Pereira. I think is how he pronounces his name. I think Fox needs to just get rid of him. It seems so. I don't think any of those former refs do a very good job on the calls. I think all of them are just shills for the refs, and usually they just agree with the calls on the field. So I'm not that impressed with those guys. Just as an aside,
that's why I was surprised though, because he actually was going against the refs for a change.
Yeah, I know. It's for a change. I agree with you, Alex. I definitely thought Bruton's play in the end zone, the fade pattern in the fourth quarter was definitely an interception. I think the NFL has gone crazy on the catch rule. We all know that.
Right.
It's just absolutely nuts. What isn't a catch anymore. At some point I think the NFL's thinking way too hard about catches. If it looks like a catch, it is a catch.
I was really bugged. I was really bugged by the flag they threw on Josh Norman's hit on Sterling Shepard too. It was a clean hit. The guy ran across the middle. You're going to get hit if you run a route
Right.
across the middle. And
Right.
I mean, excuse him for playing football. You know what I
Right.
mean? What is he supposed to do?
It's not like Norman lowered his head at all. He pulled his head up so he could try to avoid a helmet-to-helmet situation.
Well, and speaking of that, I did notice that Matt Jones got speared in the head. Helmet to helmet. Did they call it? No, they didn't bother to call that at all.
Right.
I forget who it was on the Giants. But he got speared helmet to helmet, directly in the crown of the head, and nothing. But be that as it may, that doesn't matter. What do we have? Anything else to say about the defense in this game, folks? It's kind
finally,
of the same old.
Yeah. Finally, Duke Iheanacho came in too. Was begging for him to play, and he finally came in. I think assuming that, as the reports say, D. Hall's injury looking to be torn ACL. I mean, assuming that is the way it's going to be, I would think you would have Duke come in at safety with Bruton. But it could go Will Blackman first, because he was the guy who came in after Bruton was taken out. It wasn't Duke first.
If you're thinking about it, I mean, Nacho is kind of a strong safety type anyway, so I mean, maybe Blackman makes a little more sense because he's more of a coverage guy. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, exactly. All right,
it's not ideal no matter what.
No. The fact that we lose our only true air quotes free safety is not a good sign.
Yeah.
Let's move on to players of the game and final thoughts. Steve, who is
Final
your
thoughts?
POG and your final thoughts?
Okay. My POG is player of the game, by the way. My player of the game is Kirk Cousins. He rebounded from 2 pretty bad performances, and like I said earlier, he really is throwing the ball well. It's not an accident, that we scored more points and we moved the ball better because of that. And if I could give a secondary shout out to Jay Gruden for calling a much better game than he has in the past. So that's mine. Kirk Cousins with a shout out to Jay Gruden. My final thought, our defense, don't mistake the win for a good defensive performance. They were pretty bad. The Giants run game, ran all over us for the most part. Eli put up 350 yards. The defense needs lots of help. We just happened to get a better offensive performance today. And so that's why we got the win.
Well, I think the defense is going to not do that. We all saw that moment of Chris Baker just reaming out Joe Barry on the sidelines at one point.
Yeah. That needs some attention.
Yeah, I think some people really need to pay attention to the fact that the defensive line, especially, just does not like Joe Barry, it seems like. But hopefully that, that subsides for another week, because there are a couple guys who might be able to take his place on the staff right now. I don't know. But let me give you my player of the game and final thoughts. My player of the game is going to be Quentin Dunbar. Okay, he screwed up on that, fumbled punt return situation. Something we're all too familiar with as Redskins fans, it seems. We have 1 or 2 of those every year now, where a punt gets touched by one of the blockers and, bad things happen. But that catch on the fake punt and the interception, you could argue those 2 plays won us the game easily, more than anything else. So I'm going to say number 47, Quentin Dunbar. One of my favorite names to say.
Quentin Dunbar.
Quentin Dunbar.
Yeah. He gets my player of the game. My other final thought, I just love seeing the Redskins wear red pants on the road versus
I
gold.
didn't. I like the gold pants. I love the gold pants.
I like the gold pants at home. I think they look good with burgundy jerseys. On the road, I like that Joe Gibbs era white and burgundy look.
I agree. I totally agree.
As long as we don't ever go to white and white, I can live with anything but white on white. I hate the white on white.
White on white, yellow on yellow, and burgundy on burgundy all look awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do all solid.
No onesies.
Let's see. My player of the game. I mean, it's easy to say Kirk Cousins. I mean, obviously, when he plays better, the entire team plays better, at least on offense. But I'm going to say Trent Murphy. Or not Trent Murphy. Well, Trent Murphy gets a shout out, but not Trent Murphy, the other Trent. Trent Williams. Yes. Making the switch from left tackle to left guard.
Do you want to say both Trents, Robbie? It's okay if you say both Trents.
No.
Trent and Trent skipping down the field, holding hands.
No.
That's
Making that switch.
Odd image, I must say.
After the game, he came out and said he's never played guard before in his life, not even through high school or college. So the fact that he made that switch, in the middle of a game after some serious injuries to his fellow linemen, to just make that switch and be pretty damn good at it, it made a difference because that final drive before we took the knee took a lot of time off the clock and was very, very important because we didn't want the Giants to have a lot of time to work with, to milk the clock and then go down the field and score. Because we ran so much time off the clock, Eli had to be in more of a hurry mode and make some quick decisions, which led to the Sua Cravens pick. So I'm gonna say Trent Williams, and then second behind him is Ty Nsekhe coming in and doing pretty damn good against Olivier Vernon too. So
I'm shocked that Robbie Duncan said 2 offensive linemen.
By the way, Robbie, how much would you pay to be a little fly on the wall when Callahan's talking to those two? It's like, all right, you're moving to guard, he's coming in at left tackle.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in the film room with them.
That
would be great.
I mean, I know you're
we
you're
didn't
a
mention,
lineman,
by the
but
way,
I'm a nerd, and I would just love to hear what that conversation is.
Yeah.
We didn't mention, by the way, when we should have. I think Sua Cravens had a pretty darn good game. He's an impact player. He's looking like our best linebacker. I gotta say.
I said this on Twitter after the game. He is a star in the making. He's smart, instinctive, has a nose for the football, and he needs to be on the field every play on defense at some spot.
I mean, I was concerned about his size, but it doesn't seem to really matter. I mean, he's the playmaker, and he's just playing football at a high level, and that's what matters. So,
I think you still want to probably see him more at that safety down safety role, but
I will say that the Redskins had him listed as. The Redskins had him listed as a safety on the injury report this week, which I thought was odd.
They don't care. The Redskins don't care what they list him as.
Well, it matters what you list him at, though. It does matter because they made an active effort they've listed him as a linebacker in the past. This week they listed him as a safety. I just who knows. I would like to.
Sorry, one last thing about Sua before you move on. That dog's going crazy again, by the way.
A little bit.
Likes,
you can hear it? Can you hear it?
A little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, Sua.
He's like, Sua.
He's not. I don't think needs to be playing safety at all. I think he could easily play weak side linebacker in a 4-3 system if we ever make that change. Let him get to the football, chase it around, make plays, give him freedom to be that instinctive player that he is. I think he'd be perfect at that spot.
And by the way, I think he looks like he's bulked up a little bit from when we first drafted him. Looks like he's put on a few pounds of muscle. I may be wrong, but
he does look big on camera. He looks bigger than what his weight's listed as.
Yeah, he does. I'd just like to say real quick, this has nothing to do with the Redskins, but being the Dodger fan I am, the baseball fan that I am, I just have to acknowledge that today, Sunday, is the Redskins announcer Vin Scully's final broadcast.
Dodgers announcer.
He's been in the booth for, what did I say, Redskins? Yeah. He's the Dodgers TV and announcer and radio announcer, 67 years in the booth. Today is his final broadcast. He's broadcast everything from Jackie Robinson to Clayton Kershaw. He's a true national treasure in the realm of broadcasting. And I, for one, as a lifelong Dodger fan, I'm going to be really sad to see him go. So best of luck, Vin Scully, whatever you're going to do in your retirement.
Well, and I'm not even a Dodgers fan. I really respect what Scully did. I kind of wish we had him over Joe Buck during this game because somebody like him is a lot better at calling any sporting event. Vince Scully could probably call a sport he's never seen in his life better than most people.
He's best at baseball though because he really
fills
the time.
I'm not debating that. I'm just saying he's got that natural talent where he knows how to tell a story. Like somebody I was listening to was playing a replay of Vince Scully just during a blowout, where he just starts telling funny stories about the team, and that's something guys today don't know how to do.
Yeah.
Tell funny little, like, this guy was out at a bar and, people thought he was this other player and he just kind of played it up, that kind of story. Vince Scully knows how to do that kind of thing.
He's been on, and he was. Go ahead, Robbie.
I was gonna say that I would listen to Sonny Jurgensen mumbling to himself all by himself as the broadcaster than Joe Buck.
Oh, yeah. But Vince Scully kind of has
the-
that charm that an old Sonny Jurgensen had. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if people realize this, but Vin was on the mic when Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record. It just the number of major baseball moments that Vin Scully covered was pretty incredible if you start adding them up. So, this is a Redskins podcast, not Dodgers, but I just wanted to make that point. And I'm recording the game. It's going on right now, and it's probably one of those things I'll never ever delete.
Well, while we're on the off Redskins subject, real quick before we leave, I don't know if you guys saw this, but right after the game, news broke out that the LSU Tigers have fired Les Miles and Cam Cameron as their head coach and offensive coordinator. So that's pretty big.
Now, they were both head coaches in the NFL at one point, right? Or was Les Miles only a coordinator or something in the NFL?
Les Miles was never a head coach.
Okay.
Cameron was, but not Les Miles.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little surprising that they'd fire him this early in the season, but that's college football. They're weird like that.
Well, Les has been on the hot seat for a long time. It's not completely out of left field.
Nah. Last non-Redskins thing, the Nationals did lock up the playoffs the other night, so yay, DC, somebody's going to the playoffs.
Congratulations to the Nationals.
Yeah. I guess that about does it for this week's episode. We're way over time again. But that's
I'm
okay.
just looking for any injury updates, and it doesn't look like there's any additional injury information since we started the broadcast.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately, some
have.
of those injuries are the kind of things you need X-rays for.
Yeah,
MRIs. Yeah.
Well, next week we play the Browns. Good chance to go 2-2 and really kind of get the season back on track. So
right the ship a little bit. I hope so. Because the Browns, they were looking good apparently at halftime. I don't know what their score, the final score was there with them this week.
Who, the Browns?
Yeah. Did they win?
They lost. It was they lost. Hold on, it's coming up. They lost 30-24. 30-24 against Dolphins.
Okay, because they were up at the half. I remember seeing that at halftime. But okay,
it's not going to be a cakewalk. I mean, they put up some points.
I just like to see who they're going to start at quarterback. I like to see them keep the streak of a different quarterback every week. So maybe Terrell Pryor can start because Terrell Pryor got some.
He had a big game.
Terrell Pryor is probably one of the better quarterbacks they have on their roster, unfortunately.
They don't really have any quarterbacks on the roster anymore.
No.
They're all hurt.
I heard they ran some Wildcat quarterback stuff with him, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
really?
he had
that's scary.
He had some stats. He had some stats.
Yep. All righty. Let's wrap this up here.
All right, let's wrap this up. Guys, we have a win. We're not going 0-16, which is great news. I hope you all who joined us for the show, enjoyed the show. Not enjoyed the show.
That's the way to wrap it up, Alex.
Yeah.
Everybody, thanks for joining us. Redskins got a victory today against the Giants.
Thank you.
We're all happy about that. Go celebrate, and we will see you here again on Thursday for the Cleveland Browns game preview. That's how you do it, Alex.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Somebody had to wrap it up. I didn't have anything written down. That's what happens.
Bye-bye.
Bye.